Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Coach Christian here, and I'm going to help you out with your ankle injuries today. So, if we have any aches and pains in the ankles, this is the video for you. So, the first thing we're going to go through is, if you have not seen already, go back to the assessment video that I created. It goes through the whole overhead squat assessment. I'm going to briefly go over the things that I'm looking for as far as the ankle joint goes today. So when we're doing the overhead squat assessment, there's a couple things that we're looking for. So overhead squat assessment, we have those feet straight forward here, about shoulder width apart. Hands straight up here. We want those biceps to be, lined up with the knees, or not, with the ears right here. We don't want those biceps in, or the biceps in of the ears, just lined up about the same area as the ear right here. So we're gonna go ahead and come down. The first thing I'm looking for is those feet turning out. So every time you come down, we wanna keep those feet straight, those feet turn out. If that is happening, then we have a tight calf and a weak tibialis. The other thing that we are looking for are those feet caving in. So the arches of those feet coming in here. We want our foot to be like a tripod. So if I'm gonna bring my foot over here, we want the ball of our foot, we want the outside ball right here, and this one right here, we want that to be a tripod. And all of that is pushing us back up out of that squat. If our feet are caving in like that, then this outside part of that ball right here is not planted on the ground, and we don't have that tripod, that full support coming up out of that squat, and that can cause an injury in the knee, in the hip, all the way up the kinetic chain. This feet caving in or this feet turning out is gonna affect everything coming up. You'll have a shoulder injury because your foot's turning out or your foot's caving in. It's actually quite interesting, but very important that we start here with the foot. So if we see either of those things, then what I wanna do is, number one, we're gonna foam roll. We can use a couple different objects for this. This is a foam roll. I love using these. Or we can use a ball of sorts. I like a softball, or we have a baseball or a lacrosse ball. Let's go ahead and start off here with the foam roll. So what I want us to do is we're gonna have both of our feet here. So we're gonna put one leg on top of the other here. We never want the foam roll to be on the tendon. So keep it off of the Achilles and off of the back of the knee here, the armpit of the knee, you would say. We want to keep it on the meaty part of the calf here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put one leg on top of the other, and then we're gonna find a tender spot. Not gonna lie, this is gonna hurt, but we need to make sure that we massage out these muscles so that we can loosen them up, stretch them out, activate them in their new lengthened position so that we can have those feet activating properly, coming in and out of a squat, out of a lunge, out of any kind of an exercise that we're doing, just walking, walking every day. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna find that tender spot. As soon as you find that tender spot on the meaty part of the calf, what I want you to do, this is gonna be the fun part, we're gonna go ahead and move that leg to the left and to the right. We're gonna swivel that foot to the left and to the right. You're gonna feel it's gonna be a little twingy, but we're massaging that muscle up. A common mistake that I see when foam rolling, people going like this. I call that making cookies. We're not making cookies here. We wanna sustain pressure on that point until your brain gets the signal to release that muscle. We're not breaking up the muscle as much as we're getting a signal to the brain to release that muscle when we're foam rolling. It's quite different from what I see most people doing at the average big box gym. So we're gonna go ahead and put pressure on that sucker, left and right here. And then you're gonna go ahead and switch to the other leg here. So you find the most tender spot, wherever you feel most tender, you're gonna go left and to the right. If you wanna add more pressure, it might be a little difficult. We're gonna go ahead and lift that butt up, and that's gonna make it a little more pressure here. I recommend starting off just sitting down right here. I like to use the foam roll. You can also use a ball. The ball kind of digs in there, you do the same thing. Go ahead and to the left, to the right, you just go ahead and use a softball if we do not have a foam roll available. The next thing that we're gonna do, so we have the big meaty part of the calf, and then we have this part of the calf, the outside part right here. The peroneal, this is actually the muscle. So we're gonna go ahead and then come to the side. We'll have both legs lying on top of each other. And if you want, you can come up into that side plank, or you can just stay down here, and we're gonna roll out that spot. Same thing here, go left and right. Swivel those feet, kind of massage that area out. So I recommend, 30 seconds is minimum. You always want to find the most tender spot and work on that area for a minimum of 30 seconds. If you stay there long enough, that tenderness will go away. That's how you know your brain has sent the signal for that muscle to completely release. If this is your first time doing this, it may take way longer than 30 seconds, but for a minimum, I want you to find that tender spot and do 30 seconds. You can come up to the side plank. That will add an extra resistance with gravity, a little bit more pressure. The more pressure you put on here, the faster that muscle will release. So we're gonna do those two things to massage the muscle. That's gonna massage the muscle, so now that that muscle is released, now we're able to stretch it and it's lengthened, it's optimal lengthened position. If the muscle's too tight and we try to stretch it, it's not gonna want to stretch. So that's why we do the foam roll first. So it's massaged out, it's released, the brain has sent the signal to that calf that it needs to release. Now we can go ahead and stretch it. Now it will actually stretch into its lengthened position. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and stretch that out. How we do that? We're gonna start off with our knees right underneath our hips. We're gonna have our wrists, elbows, and shoulders lined up in this tabletop position here. We're gonna go ahead and come up onto those toes and get into a downward dog here. So this is going to put a little bit of tension on those calves. What we're gonna wanna do is push one heel down at a time. The farther you push that heel down, the more of a stretch you're going to get in that calf. And we just go ahead and alternate back and forth. Push that heel all the way down to the ground here, all the way down to the ground. There we go, back and forth. That's gonna stretch out that calf here. I didn't mention it before, but we wanna make sure that we do this without shoes on. No shoes on is optimal for these stretches and exercises here. Now that we have the muscle has released because we foam rolled it, we massaged it out, after about 30 seconds, once again, stretching it out, I always recommend 2 minutes. 2 minutes on each calf. Each side, 2 minutes minimum. You can go back and forth, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. I want you to hit 2 minutes. Really lengthen out that calf muscle here. And then after we've lengthened it into its optimal position, if we don't do anything to activate it, guess what? It's gonna wanna shrink back up to where it was. So now that it's released, it's lengthened, we want it to stay there. So we're gonna do an activation exercise. This is gonna put a little, activate those muscles around the calf and actually strengthen the tibialis so that it stays in that position. So we'll start off with a basic toe squat. This one, there's gonna be a couple of variations I'll show you. Number one, we'll keep those feet shoulder width apart. We're gonna come up onto those tiptoes. This carpet is very unstable, so it's gonna be very difficult for me. And we're gonna come down, stay on those tiptoes, down into that squat, come back up. So we're gonna do a toe squat. We're staying on our toes and those two front parts of the tripod of your foot, right? So we're gonna go ahead, stay on those toes, come down and back up here. We'll go ahead and do about, let's say 2 sets of 8 to 10 on that exercise. If you wanna make it more difficult, we keep those feet closer together, come up onto the tiptoes. Now we're trying to stay down, squat, 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 squat. There we go. And then come back up. If you're doing this on a carpet, it will be much more difficult because that carpet is kind of bouncing around. If you do it on a hardwood, it may be a little bit more stable. This is a foamy carpet. So if you actually want to make it even harder, this is what I recommend. This will really light up the shins, really strengthen those muscles all around the ankle and up to the knees here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a ball. There's a little bone protruding out of the ankle right here. The ball is gonna go just above that. We're gonna go ahead and keep that ball right above that bony protrusion. Then we're gonna come in, tiptoes, and we don't want that ball to fall. It feels like it's gonna fall already. Coming down, see, I gotta squeeze it tighter. Go ahead, get it above there, squeeze that ball, come down into that squat. Don't let that ball fall, come back up. This is really gonna light up all of those muscles in here, strengthening that ankle. Woo! So that one's actually very, very advanced. It's actually super hard. Come up onto the toes, squeeze that ball, come on back up. do as many as you can on that one. Maybe 3 to 5 is okay on that one. That one's very, very difficult. But that will strengthen and activate all of the muscles that keep that ankle joint stable. And that'll help so that when you're doing your squats, you're able to use your foot properly and push off and not have any injuries coming up to the knee, up to the hip, even to the shoulder. We want to make sure that those feet are planted firmly and those are strong foundation as we're working all the way up the chain. So if you like that video and it helped you out, go ahead and drop a like, leave a comment below, let me know what you think about it, and I will see you next time.